Hey everyone, what's up? I typically talk about music and comics, but today I wanted to talk to you guys about music and manga. And I picked up this manga recently, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought everyone should read this and I should share it with everybody. Because Record Journey, this book, is a little bit about music, but also just not really about music, but about how music really impacts us. So if you're thinking, oh, this is going to be about music and like how it works and things like that, not so much. But if you're thinking about, is this going to be about how music connects us with other people and, just makes us better as a society in general, then yes, this is definitely the book you want to pick up if you want some feel-good moments that are created due to music. And there are several stories inside this book. I want to touch on a few and why I thought they were great and why they stuck with me. The first story in this book that just stuck with me that I really liked is when a grandparent dies and leaves their entire record collection to their grandchild. And they decide to sell all of it. Rightfully so, because if they're not into records, then they don't need to hold on to it, and it's a really big record collection. But as they go through the process of selling these records, they find out that there's a record with their name on it, and they go on this adventure to discover more about the record. Eventually, they learn that the record was tied to a memory of their grandfather and their grandma, and they were kind of named after the record itself because record means memories. And this is just a great example about how things from the past that our parents or grandparents do tie into who we are here in the present. And music was the way that they showed it in this story. And honestly, it was a bit of a tearjerker. Definitely pulled on my heartstrings for it, because when you can't talk to someone that's gone in your life and music is the way that they can kind of feel like they're there with you, this story beautifully illustrated that. So first one off the bat in this book, you're gonna probably need to grab a box of tissues. Another story that I really liked was the idea of pirate radios. Pirate radios happen in a couple of these stories, but the story I really want to talk about is when a young girl hears a rock band that I think they're trying to say is kind of like the equivalent of the Beatles, but in the story is called the Staggs. She hears the Staggs on this pirate radio, loves them, and she goes on a path to try and find out if she can get that record. It's a crazy adventure with the police cracking down on all the media and the material that people are consuming, but eventually she meets someone who can get her the record, and she gets the record after a close call with the authorities. And it's like this moment where there's a moment of joy and just feeling like you can finally be yourself with the music that you're listening to that really resonated with me, because when you're in your teens, you're kind of discovering who you are, and you need that music to kind of like shine that light on who you are or who you may want to be, or just know that there's other things out there. That music feels special to you more than any other music probably ever will for the rest of your life. So the fact that we have a story that illustrates this and the importance of it is super cool, and we don't even need to hear the music. We can just read it and we know what music that this girl is kind of listening to, and then we can think about what music we listened to when we were going through that time in our lives. The next story that I really liked was when the Staggs, aka the Beatles kind of version, these stories, is in a foreign country. And their plane breaks down, they can't get to the next show, and so they go and just kind of explore, and they meet a girl who is a musician, but she doesn't like them. She kind of does like them, but she thinks they're kind of cocky and, full of themselves. But they kind of do like a battle of bands moment, and they end up jamming out on a rooftop, and people in the neighborhood see it, they hear it, and she gets a new respect for them, but also she gains a lot of self-confidence in herself. She's less stiff when she's playing, and she's really just feeling the groove of the music. So as a musician, this was a really cool story to see, of just that moment where you can say, oh, I feel like I finally belong in the world of musicians and playing an instrument. That story was also one that was something similar to what I went through when I was growing up and I was trying to get into music. Being around other musicians is sometimes very intimidating. They know a lot more than you do. They're probably a lot better at their instrument than you are, or at least you think they are. And now you're like, oh, can I hang out with them? Can I do this? Yeah, I actually can. And so this story just really did a great job of capturing that. The last story that I also really liked, and is again just one of those moments when you're a young musician and you're trying to make something and put something out in the world, is when this band goes to a diner and there's an old jukebox and there's records and there's vinyls in it, and this is kind of an old diner, it's an old town, not much is changing, but the band decides that they want to make a record just to put inside this jukebox to kind of have their moment in time be alive in this diner forever. And there's more to the story that happens, but that's one of the big things that stood out to me is this band's doing so much just to leave an impression on such a small town, such a small part of the town, that it's one of those things you're never going to hear about and you're never going to see or maybe even understand unless you're there. But in the future, people can look back, listen to that record, and form their own opinions about it. They may not know the full story, but it's so cool to have left your imprint on that record, in that diner, on that small part of the world, and potentially influence other people, or at least get them to have some sort of opinion about what you created. There's so many cool little small stories and positions and memories you're going to recall for yourself if you're a musician, and if you're just a starting musician, you're going to recognize these things in your own life a lot easier too. So if you're into music, if you like manga, I would definitely check out Record Journey. And if you've never gotten to manga, this is a really good place to start. It's not action-packed, it's just a lot of really good feel-good stories. You can read it easily, there's several chapters in it, and I hope they come out with more. Because if this is just the start, there's so many other places that music touches us in our lives that can make excellent stories. But for now, we have only one volume from Titan Manga, which you can get online or probably at your closest bookstore. Let me know what you guys think about Record Journey in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.